On today's episode, we talk about graceful transitions, letting go of the old, embracing the new, figuring out how we can celebrate the old books and enjoy the ones we're going through currently.
We also get to share a little bit about our own personal big life changes that are happening and how we have found grace in the process of preparing and also integrating a new chapter.
Enjoy the episode.
Hello and welcome to Stay Sparked, where we share conversations that are aimed to light you up. I'm BETSY FINKLEHOO, and I am a somatic body worker and the creator of the Power Affirmation Project, tools to support transformation.
I am John HALCYON. I am the author of Love More, Fear Less, Float More, Steer Less, and I do daily broadcasts online for love ambassadors like you.
Yes, and we always love starting our conversations with gratitude. So would you like to spark us off with your gratitude, HALCYON?
Yes, I feel so full, but right now I'm thinking about how grateful I am for my parents. They are still together. My mom is 81 and my dad is 83, and they're so cute and in love. And I just saw them yesterday, and my mom goes, "I'm your arm candy," and my dad says, "You're my trophy wife." And I just thought it was so adorable. I just am so grateful to have them as role models for long-term partnership.
Oh, so sweet. I got to meet them before. They are so precious. Love that.
How about you?
Well, my current gratitude is I am coming off of a weekend of sharing the Power Affirmation Journal and cards at a trade show in Denver. It was the second time I've done a trade show with my publisher, and it was so cool to meet and talk to so many shop owners and also retail customers about the power of our thoughts and about using affirmations and reprogramming our belief systems. And, you know, these days there's just so much done online. So when there's an opportunity to see people face to face and hug them and look in their eyes and really have deep connections, it just brings me a lot of gratitude for that opportunity to get to do that.
That's so cool. You know, I'm freshly back from Burning Man, and I was thinking about you at the trade show and how many parallels there were in, you know, your theme camp offerings and your gifting and your face-to-face sharing of your gifts. It's so inspiring.
Oh, I love that. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's interesting to see how there's a lot of parallels that the Burning Man culture can bring out into the world, huh?
Totally. Yeah.
Well, welcome back from the burn.
Thank you.
Loved all your posts. So for anyone out there who hasn't got a chance to see John's cool Burning Man prep page, that is filled with so much inspiration about the playa magic, how to prepare. I feel like I didn't even go, and I gained a lot of inspiration from watching your Instagram profile just share so much goodness about Burning Man.
Thanks. I should say that it's kind of in the weeks, the next few weeks, it's kind of converting to a decompression and integration page. So sharing some tips that make this phase easier for people that have gone. So follow Burner Prep on Instagram and follow along and contribute.
Wow, I love that. Well, you know what? I'm going to weave in some relevance for the topic, because the topic that we're going to share today is really about graceful transitions. And what you're doing with that page is you talked about preparations, basically for a rite of passage, which is Burning Man. A week in the desert is a rite of passage. And then also the decompression and integration, which I see as a really valuable and important part of any rite of passage, any big changes. And the reason we wanted to share on this conversation today is because we both, and also many people I know currently, are going through really big changes. Me personally, I am about to complete a 20-year cycle of living in San Diego and starting a new chapter of my life living in North Carolina. And so there's a lot that goes along with that, and there's been a lot of preparation. There hasn't been an Instagram page that I've been looking at to do a move across the country prep, but it has been a lot of prep. And then there's also the leap, and there's a lot of layers of letting go and grieving and saying goodbye and tying loose ends up, and then also preparing for something new. There's a birthing happening, a newness happening. And so for me, the words graceful transition have been a really important part of my intention and my affirmations. And then also with you, Halcyon, you've been in a really big letting go of your Burning Man camp, which was how many years that you ran the Pink Heart?
Like 15, something like that. 13, 14. It gets fuzzy after 10, but a long time.
Okay.
I'm curious, as you are settling into this new chapter, are there things that you did that you are feeling like, oh, that really made this transition easier? And there are things you're looking back and saying like, I wish I would have spent more time or energy on that?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, for me, actually, I'm really proud of myself because I've given myself a lot of time. This has been a very slow process to make this big decision. It's been actually almost like 2.5 years or so of making the decision. The first time I went to North Carolina, I felt it, felt the calling. The mountains were calling. The people were calling. Was feeling that subtle whisper that, hey, this might be your next home. But I really took my time and I checked back in with myself and I checked back in with my life in San Diego. And I really looked at the things that I have built in San Diego and what it would look like to make that big change. And so I didn't push myself. I didn't force myself. And there was quite a good amount of time that I felt sort of tugged between both, like this pressure to make a big decision around choosing one or the other. And one of the best things that I did for myself was let go of that pressure. And I received a lot of help from some different people on that, like saying like, hey, guess what? You don't have to make the decision. You can be in both for a little while. And so embracing that, knowing like, okay, yes, I can actually do that. I can relax into like just knowing that it's a process of gaining, the just trust, right? So I kind of I called it bi-coastal curious for a while, or poly-city amorous, where I had like 2 cities that I was in lovership with, and San Diego was my primary lover for a while. And now I am shifting my primary city partner into North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. And now San Diego will be my secondary. And that helped me a lot to really go slow and to not put so much pressure of having to do it fast. And that actually has really helped me to feel safe landing. And so I made my first leap recently, and I landed softly into the arms of some really, really special people that have helped me to just really anchor in and recognize the importance of this process. And if I wouldn't have taken my time, I might have gone to a new city not hardly knowing anyone. And that can be a little jolting, personally, to go somewhere and just have so much newness and not know where to start. It can be overwhelming. So yeah, taking my time has been really nice.
It's interesting. I think, people have been asking me questions about leaving Pink Heart and quitting Pink Heart. And I've not been thinking about it in those terms. I've been thinking about my experience right now is one where something else serves me better. But the idea of like committing to an end to one thing and a beginning of something else is a little bit too finite for what feels right for me. But in camping with a new camp, which was Burners Without Borders, I did have this abrupt feeling of a whole new city in a way, like you're saying. Like when I arrived on Playa, because I came late in the week and showed up to a camp of people that I'd only met some of them on Zoom, but I didn't know any of these people. The last time I joined a camp, an existing camp, and got to meet a camp full of people was in 1998. So 26 years ago, my first year, I joined a camp. And ever since then, I've been a part of beginning camps. And there was a really valuable lesson in how traumatic and how significant it can be to be entering into a new group of people. Even if they're the most welcoming people in the world, it's a big shift. It's a lot of relationships. And I feel this gratitude of sympathy towards anyone who is having the courageous experience of joining in on an experience, and everyone that has joined one of my camps in the past and maybe like, I should have been maybe a little softer, a little bit more understanding of how much is going on during that transition.
Oh, powerful to gain that perspective.
Yeah.
When you kind of shift your position, you can start to see things in a different way.
Yeah. I think that's as far as the transition, the gracefulness part is, I was in a state where I was kind of feeling like there was the experience and before, and me before. And I should say that some blurry lines in my transition as a burner. Some has to do with being someone who's in charge of the theme camp, and some has to do with someone who is no longer doing a ton of intoxicants at Burning Man. So the identity shift of who I am has all these facets, and there's parts of it where I have had to figure out, is this a hard line, and are there parts of myself that can never be expressed again because they're part of the old chapter, or are there parts that can serve me in healthy ways? And it's been more difficult than I realized to identify, is this a healthy part of who I am, or is this a kind of a reaction to some old pattern or some fear? And filtering it out.
Yeah. It's like staying in that curiosity of, what do I want to bring with me into this next phase of who I'm becoming? What do I want to leave behind too? And there is something about putting to rest these old parts of ourselves and certain parts of ourselves that may never go to rest, but we have to empower these different parts of ourselves in a way, because ultimately it's like this death and rebirth cycle constantly that we're in. That is what I'm hearing you say, is like there's certain elements that are dying, and also certain elements that are being reborn. But then different qualities of each of those things can start to transform and metamorphosize. And it's a process. I really consider how we create our identities through these different things that we do and places that we live and people that we're with, and then when that changes, pink heart, for example, it's like, that's obviously, it's pink, it's furry, it's friendly, it represents a culture, and that is, who you are and who you've become. And then you pull yourself out of the pink path, or no, you'll always be on the pink path, but, it's, the environment changes, but there's elements that will always be you, because your value system is friendly. It's pink.
What I think that it has been interesting is trying to tune into, it was my connection to that part of myself. How much of it was healthy and how much was maybe unhealthy, and how much can I appreciate from a different place now? And I'll see if I can be more specific in a way that's a little embarrassing, is that I have been doing Burning Man videos online for a long time. I made this camp a long time ago. So there's a good chance if you're researching Burning Man, you'll read about me or watch my videos. And so it is a real kick in the pants to walk around Black Rock City and have hundreds of people say, "HALCYON," and some people treat me as if I'm a celebrity for this 1 week. And it is really, for someone who spends a lot of their life alone in front of a computer, looking at a webcam, making videos, to have a week of people just energetically full of gratitude and it's an ego boost. And it's something that even when I was thinking about it, I'm not sure if I want to go to Burning Man, I was hungry for that ego boost, hungry for that, people telling me, you're great, I love you. And this year, I so appreciated when people were saying, "Oh, I love you, you're great." But I didn't feel hungry for it in the same way. And I think there's a bunch of reasons for it. One is the process of really questioning my identity, looking into what parts of myself in the past were so needy for external approval, and trying to heal that inner worthiness so that I can appreciate it but not need it. And the other part is all of the work that I've been doing in relationship and finding this healthy attachment, where within the connection bond that I have with Lisa, healing these parts of myself where I'm like, I know that I'm enough, even if somebody just run up to me and go, "I love your videos," so I can greet and be in that space I don't have to reject that parts of myself, but I can experience it in a much healthier way, I think.
So powerful. Self-reflection of who we have been can support a deeper sense of moving forward, right? Those old ways, those mechanisms to kind of help us start to feel worthy. And then when we actually start to remember that we are already worthy without the outside validation, that's a really big one. And that here also a deeper sense of self-security, right? And the attachment styles, anxious or avoidant or secure within ourselves. When we're secure within ourselves, we don't need the outside validation. Then it just becomes a bonus, and to operate in the world from that place.
Yeah. And that's I think the interesting part of the transition and the gracefulness for me is trying to figure out, are there parts of old me that are still wonderful as long as I don't have to let them go if I can be that person from a healthy place. And it's just continually doing that inquiry, because I like old me, it's just trying to figure out, how can I be old me, or what parts of old me still work? Like when I was initially trying to break down, and I felt like I was a more serious rejection of my identity, especially when I started sobriety, and people would tell me, but you're a good person. I'm like, I know, but I almost feel like I need to rebuild this house and figure out what the foundation is, and I got to remove all the furniture first. Some of the furniture I'm going to bring back in, some of I'm still going to work with the homeless. Yes. I'm still going to do these, a lot of things, but every once in a while I'm going to pick up a piece of furniture and go, oh, I do this because I don't like myself enough and I need my dad's approval or something like that, And so, but you can't do it unless you are willing to say, I let it all go.
Yep. Embracing change. Yes, that's so powerful. And I love this metaphor because I know personally when I rearrange my furniture or I move, there's this element that kind of stirs things up in such a good way. It starts to bring up old memories and old reflections around who I was, and then certain pieces that I really want to hold on to, and certain pieces that I'm like, why do I still have that? And the power of letting go of those different things that are no longer in alignment to who I am, it's powerful. I know in this process of moving, I've been getting rid of a lot of things, and I've put everything in storage, and the storage bin is about to get shipped across the country, and I have been without it. Most of I'd say 80% or more of what I own is in that bin, and I haven't seen it for a month. Probably won't see it for another few weeks, and that's okay. And I know that I'll probably want to get rid of more when I do see it, because there's a attachment to the past through our physical things, and it is so beautiful to let go and open up to something new, right? And the thing that's been really supportive for me to embrace this new chapter is remembering that it's safe to let go of what's good in order for me to step into something else that's good or even better. And trusting. I just moved out of a house that was right on the water, right on the cliffs in beautiful Encinitas, California, gorgeous multi-million-dollar house. And I moved out of there and everything was great. I mean, there was a few things that I was it wasn't really aligned for me. It was certain, things about living in community that just didn't feel aligned for me anymore. But everything else was so beautiful. And it's okay, well, I can let go of this beautiful experience and trust and know that there's more beauty to be had, and that this chapter is always going to be in my heart. It's when we're reading a book, when we close a chapter, we're like, maybe I'm just going to go back and read it again. Not often. We want to keep going. What's going to happen next?
That's really hard. I mean, I applaud your bravery and your courage and your faith. I think it's easy to grasp and be like, this is good, and be afraid of losing it. And there's this, you have to find this balance of okay, I'm grateful for what I have, and I have faith that there is an even better thing for me, an even better adventure, an even better, more nourishing source of lessons and on a different path. It should, not forcing it, but if it's calling to me, I gotta not be afraid.
Yes. What is in greater alignment for where we are now? Because who I was when I moved into that place 2 years ago, who I was when I moved to San Diego 20 years ago. I'm different, always changing. And there is something that is in greater alignment for me now. And that alignment is in Nashville. And I feel it and I know it. And I'm getting confirmation after confirmation that that's where I need to be in order to live this next part of my life and let the next part of the chapter or the next part of the book reveal itself, which has these very specific pieces that are not in San Diego. And so I'm excited to embrace this new life and this new way of operating with a whole new set of people and places and experiences, while also knowing that San Diego and the people that I love so dearly are still right here in my heart, and I are a plane ride away, a phone call away. Same thing with you. I actually imagine Pink Heart is still going to keep going. It was there this year, right?
Yeah. In fact, I wasn't sure how it was going to feel when I rolled up Pink Heart, and it was glorious. It looked so good. They were on the Esplanade. They brought back Kiwi's Beacon. It looked as better than it's looked in a long time. And I was like, am I going to feel guilty that I'm not there? Am I going to feel, I don't know what I was going to feel. And I just felt so proud. I felt like this is still a part of me. I'm so proud of all the memories that I haven't. I'm so proud of all the things that I contributed to it. I'm so proud of all the things that other people have contributed to it. And it was almost like a couple weeks ago, my brother dropped his oldest off at college, and it kind of felt like that scary but super proud feeling of like, oh yeah, this is a thing that I have been a part of, but it's not me. It is so beautiful. There was a moment I was at the one of our events. I say our events, one of the events that Pink Heart did, and because people associate it with me, there were people saying, "Oh, thank you for the ice cream." And I was sitting next to another old timer in camp, and I'm like, "Oh, you know what? I'm actually not camping here this year. These are the people that are putting it on." And after the person left, I was like, "I don't want to be taken." Was that awkward? Like, I'm not sure exactly what to say. And he looked me in the eyes. He goes, "When someone says thank you to you, the correct answer is, you're welcome."
You're welcome.
And I'm like, yeah. Oh, but I needed him to tell me that, because I didn't want to feel like anyone, like I left and then took credit. And it was a beautiful moment where the existing campmate was like, "You're always family, man. You can always be proud of this, and you're always welcome." And so it ended up being a really powerfully healing experience of like, I don't have to be responsible, and yet I can still feel a part of it. It was awesome.
So beautiful. And when someone says thank you so genuinely, it is such a beautiful thing to just smile and witness their gratitude, even if you didn't lift a finger in that moment. And of course, like giving credit when credit is due, but also like you don't want to rob someone of their gratitude and be like, "Oh, no, like I
totally
didn't do anything." And it's like, okay, like just take a breath and say, wow, even if you can't take any credit, is like, thank you for your thank yous.
Like gifting 101. I robbed them of the joy of their thank you, and it was my issue that luckily I got a chance to heal, so I was able to receive the next thank you. Yeah.
I want to touch on something that I find is really important about embracing big changes and letting go of something that is so meaningful in our situations here. My big move, and releasing this part of you and your history with the camp. And for those of you listening out there that might be going through something, I'm actually preparing to be with one of my best friends for her first birth. So she's preparing for some big changes. I was just with another friend who is recognizing that his business of 30 years is coming to a close, and he's got a lot of things coming up around that. And it's like, how do we actually prepare for it? And I feel like one of the biggest things that has helped me a lot, and I'd love your thoughts on this too, and where you go with it, is the grieving process. Like giving myself the space and the time and the just permission to grieve and to cry and to feel the depth of emotion that it is to let go of something, knowing that it's never going to be the same, that old part of who I am. Like for me, it's like my healing space. I've had a beautiful healing space where I do my somatic body work and intuitive guidance and healing work with people that have been there for almost a decade. And so I went there while I was making the decision to make the move, and I set up a little kind of ritual with myself with some fungi to help me kind of access some emotion. And I wept and I journaled and I danced and I cried and I thought about all the good times that I had in that space and all of the healing experiences that happened there. And it felt really important to grieve it. And that opened up something for me to allow the next phase to come in, because shortly after, this amazing woman who had just finished massage school, who was ready to step into the next level of her business, she was ready to take over the space. And the space was blessed to me in my early career. And so it just like feels like the grief cleared out the holding on, the grasping, and opened up for something really important to reveal itself. And that now I'm in that place of going,
That is beautiful. And I really appreciate, you bringing that up and that reminder that, it's grief is not just when a loved one dies. There are so many things loss we experience in so many ways. And I know that for a long time, I was like, I haven't had trauma because I wasn't physically abused. Therefore, I don't have trauma. But I definitely am the result of traumas. And I feel like, I haven't experienced grief, but I definitely have experienced loss in different ways. And you're right, acknowledging that it's okay to let go and to feel whatever it feels to let go. I had this weekend, I'm cleaning up and organizing my place and cleaning up the garage. So because Lisa has emptied her storage unit in Northern California, and she's adding stuff to our new space. And I ended up finding and cleaning out and throwing out like some drug paraphernalia that I had. And as you say it, it was like a grieving, it was like, I have fond memories. I have aspects of myself that I miss, and feelings came up that were pretty dramatic. And it was like almost like smelling a t-shirt of someone who's died. Like, oh, wow. Like I miss this thing and it's sad. I'm sad. It's everything is good, but I'm sad that it's gone. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's okay. It's important that grief is so dynamic and we all feel it in such a different way, and it comes in waves. And, I'm hearing you speak to nostalgia, helping you access that sense of grief. And yeah, that's I think a really important part of being able to move forward is like honoring those feelings, honoring the like love that's there. And that's ultimately what it's about. It's like that old part. It's like, oh, I loved you, I miss you, and also like I'm not you anymore.
Yeah. To me, that has been a really, I guess I used to have like kind of a story of like, this is the right decision, that's the wrong, this is the right, this is the wrong, this is the right. And it's like, it's just a series of the exact right adventure we're supposed to have, the exact right classroom. And so whatever the new thing, it's not necessarily an improvement or what's better than what was old. It's what's new and it's what is right now. And shifting that to an ability to then have gratitude and appreciation for the past book. And you did chapters, but it helps me to think of this actual books. Like, okay, that book, the characters were different. These book characters are different. And that was awesome. But this book requires a whole different theme, a whole different set of behavior from the characters. And it's not necessarily better. It's what's right for right now. And I can celebrate the past and the present from that perspective.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I love the element of getting to reinvent and create this new way of operating. Because if we have just this one life in this body, how many lives can we live in one lifetime? like, wow, I want to squeeze the juice out of this life. I know personally I've gone through quite a lot of big changes. I grew up in Ohio, and then I moved across the country to Arizona, and then I lived in California. And now I'm going to be shifting my life again. I've had multiple careers. I've been primarily a body worker most of my adult life, but I've also, been a clothing designer, and I've been an event producer and a speaker, MC. I've done quite a lot, and, now I'm an author and coach, and it's really beautiful to get to embrace the transitions of interest, the transitions of service. And I know I'm unique to myself. I'm me. Everyone does things differently. Some people are more like the metaphor I've heard before is like a woodpecker. If a woodpecker finds that one thing, stays committed to that one thing, does that same thing its whole life, and then there's some people that are hummingbirds, like myself. I love getting to go to all the different flowers and experience the different things in life and get to express in all kinds of different ways. And so I know for me, that's been really helpful to embrace my nature as the hummingbird and not try to force myself to be someone who stays committed to the one thing my entire life and lives in one location. And then honoring people that do that. That, that really works for some people where they're like, okay, I found my forever home. I'm 30 and I'm going to live here for the rest of my life. And I know that's what works for me. And I'm going to be a school teacher for 50 years, and that's great. Some people don't have the impetus to have so much change in their life. And there are quite a few people that do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think as long as you are motivated by a sense of I'm growing in this place where I'm at, or I'm comfortable in this place that I'm at, and that I'm okay with that. And as long as it's not fear that is keeping you there, and which is why I so love an example of someone like you, where you're like, oh, you're allowed to just move your location. Oh, you're allowed to change your job. Oh, you're allowed to just do this. And the more that for me, when I first went to Burning Man, that was like, oh my gosh, you're allowed to do so many different things. And I think that culturally, at least I think it's different now, but it used to be like you pick a career, you put your head down and you do it until you retire. And you can be hummingbirds.
Well, yeah. And, it's interesting because there is something that can be very real when we get locked into a certain thing. Then change becomes so overwhelming. Like I was just talking to a friend of mine the other day who, she's lived in the same place for a really long time. She's got a lot of cords and connections. And my other friend who is changing his business he owns a huge building and he considers it as like a 40-ton anchor. So to actually conceptualize change is just so much. I have another friend that owns $1 million house, and like the idea of selling it is like, how would he do that? It's like, how would I actually embrace change? And what I say about that is that when you can feel the swell, because sometimes the swell in the ocean, you can see it coming from far away. Something is going to be changing. Or just you can feel like when the seasons change, it's just subtle. It's like whispers. And when those whispers start coming in, then you take small steps, small actions every day. You starting to look at the horizon line and go like, okay, you know what? Something is going to be changing. And then having the conviction that I can do it, even though it's overwhelming, but like one little bit at a time of lightening up. Maybe that's getting rid of things if it's a physical change in environment. Maybe there's, if there's a career change up ahead, but you're so deeply locked in, it's maybe just slowly starting to imagine what it would feel like, or like slowly starting to have conversations with other people that might inspire you for your next career. Maybe just slowly starting to look at LinkedIn, for example, preparing for the change, preparing for that swell, because then when things start to pressurize and you can feel like, oh God, I'm going to have to take a leap soon, then we're lighter. I kept getting this message. This has happened to me twice before I moved. I had a big shift after I lived in a place for 7 years, and I could feel it coming for quite a while before. And I kept hearing, lighten up, lighten up. Something's changing soon. Something's going to change soon. just get ready. So lighten up. And so, I started to go through my junk drawers and I started to clear things out and I started to get, just a little bit. And I'm so glad I did that because that just helped me when all of a sudden I could feel it. It was like all the momentum, just something said it was time and I was prepared.
Wow. That was really helpful for me. I think that I can really get stuck in patterns. This is how I'm doing things. And someone once told me that it's not that winners never quit. Winners know when to quit. I'm like, oh, all right. And so even like the taking a shift away from pink card is part of that is like, that was working, and there's tons of reason to hold on to it. But something in me I was feeling the swell, and I think part of it too is and this is where your work with affirmations I think is so helpful, is when you start to kind of like open your brain to the possibilities of things, then you notice things around you that you were not able to see because of your cognitive bias before. And someone says, oh, well, I'm going to this retreat that's about this. And you go, oh, wow, maybe I should go to a retreat. Or I never even considered that. But now that I know that I'm kind of looking for a swell, maybe I will join my friend on this retreat, or I will say yes to this thing, or maybe I will pay attention when the sign comes. And it's a process of letting go and slowly pulling your anchor up a little bit for when the swell comes.
Yes. Yeah. And to go like, wow, something's not working. Actually, something's not been working for quite a while. All right, well, if something's not working, then what needs to change? Right? I know I spent quite a bit of time feeling stuck. I was like, something's not working. Something needs to change, but I don't know what. And I can't see which way I'm supposed to go. And it's like, it's a very deep process to surrender and to look deeper inside to see what I need to change within myself in order to see my outside world change, And is that facing my fears? Is it getting deeper into like, what are the mental blocks that I have? What are the different things that the protectors that I have in place, the mechanisms. So it's a really interesting journey of change. And I've heard that a lot from different people too, is like, I just don't know how to change. I feel so stuck. And that's an affirmation. I realized that when I was in it, I was like, wow, I keep affirming how stuck I am. I need to change that. All right. So then I started to change. Gosh, I feel so stuck. Why do I feel so stuck too? I'm working on finding a way to transition and change. I'm not quite sure exactly what's got to change, but something's changing. And even though I can't quite see where I'm going somewhere different than I am now. And I'm staying open. I'm staying open to some things shifting.
That sparks the line from the Lion Tracker's Guide to Life. I don't know where I'm going, but I know exactly how to get there. And so when you feel like I don't know what's next, getting really clear on what are the values that are lighting you up. What are the things that are making you feel like that's not really feeling good when I know I have a commitment to do this and this and this, when I'm having to act in this way to make that work. What are the things that and then you start to go, oh, I'm not sure where it goes, but I'm starting to notice the things the way I need to be. And then maybe that will help me find out where I need to go.
Yes, I love that so much. Thank you for that. I'm receiving so much inspiration from this. Thank you for this conversation. I feel like this would be a perfect moment to find a graceful transition into the
Bravo.
into the completion of this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think actually now I'm even sparked to how can we take this conversation further on another episode, or just personally, what are the micro graceful transitions? How do we transition conversations? How do we have grace in the transitions of relationships? How do we find grace in the transitions of a phone call or a meeting, or even just moving from, one location to another location daily? Transitions are happening all the time. And it's like, okay, grace, smooth grace, graceful transitions, like watercolors. they blend into each other. And there's something so lovely about that.
It's so, wow, this is really resonating. I mean, since the burn, I was real, a lot of things didn't go my way once I got home. I lost my phone, my vehicle broke down, I stepped on glass, and it was, there's something in, and I'm still figuring out what it was about being post Burning Man, where I was able to just embrace what was and embrace the change and allow and not fight the circumstances, like serenity prayer over and over again. What can I do I have control over and what don't I have control over? But you're right. I think that is a whole other episode that I'd like to do a lot of reflection on.
Yes. Okay. Seed planted. The shall continue. Yes. Amazing. Well, and for those of you who have listened thus far, there's more sparks to be had. We're going to be having some guests coming on some of the next shows, so I'm really excited about that. But not to get too far ahead, and our tradition is to always close with some sparks. And so the closing sparks, really the intention of that is like, what are our biggest takeaways? What are the things worth repeating after a conversation like this? And so do you have any brewing for you?
I think my closing spark is that I guess there's this idea that you need to let go of who you are so that you can become who you can become, and that seems really scary. And what I have experienced, and I am continuing to experience, is that when you let go of who you are, it doesn't mean you say goodbye to all of that forever. It means that you are willing to say goodbye to it all, and then the healthy parts will find you again, and you will return to those healthy parts of yourself. So it's not as scary as it sounds, and the graceful transition can happen by trusting that the best parts of you will meet you on the other side.
Yeah, trust is huge. Yes, beautiful. I feel like for me, my closing spark in finding grace in transitions, especially big ones, big life transitions, is grieving. I watched my dear friend cry in her baby blessing way as she is being born a mother. And I watched her grieve her past self. I watched her grieve the maiden, and I've seen many of my soul sisters do that. And it's a very important part of allowing the next part of ourselves to be born. And so, yeah, saying goodbye, letting go, crying, grieving, whatever that might look like, to allow this next phase of who we're becoming to be more clear.
Beautiful. Betsy, can you remind us where we can find you online if we're looking for you?
Yes, I'm easy to find. As it turns out, you can probably put my name in ChatGPT and say, who is Betsy FINKLEHOO? And it gives you a pretty good answer. So I just did that the other day. So also, I am here in service to a project. The Power Affirmation Journal and the inspiration cards are my current passion and service. It's tools for transformation. The cards are pretty straightforward, powerful affirmations to get us to have mindset resets and think in positive ways to help us create our best lives. And the journal is really a tool for going deep inside your belief systems and reprogramming, changing the old outdated beliefs, getting clear about where you want to go, and pumping the mindset muscles for a new belief systems to be born. So you can find those on poweraffirmation.com. And if you want to work with me one-on-one, if you happen to be in San Diego or Asheville, I'm in both. I love seeing people one-on-one doing mind, body, spirit, transformational body work.
Amazing. I am available online at lifestudent.com, and you can find links to all my free daily broadcasts in the morning and midday, as well as some books. And the Burner Prep Instagram page we mentioned is a good place to kind of just take it all in. Although it also has a link to the First Saturdays Homeless, where someone who was there this weekend said, you should promote your personal Instagram. It's way more fun. I'm like, okay, so HALCYON Pink, you should follow me there as well. And with so much talk of affirmations and so much clarity that it's a part of this process, will you close us out with an affirmation?
I would be honored to. All right. So focusing the mind, if you feel good to close your eyes and take a deep breath. I embrace the path of graceful transitions. I embrace the path of graceful transitions. I embrace the path of change and graceful transitions. I embrace change. I embrace change. I embrace change with grace. I embrace change with grace. I embrace change with grace. Simple and clear, remembering to repeat our affirmations as a way to infuse our consciousness, help us to stay focused on where we're going and who we're becoming. And I also find those affirmations help to quiet the monkey mind. And so let's keep embracing these changes with grace and watch the life journey just continue to unfold.
Stay sparked. Find us on Instagram at Stay Sparked and leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Thanks so much for helping us spread these sparks.